Harry Potter movie tie-in games. Love 'em or hate 'em, were they any good? I will be taking a look at every single mainline entry into the Harry Potter video game franchise and critically analyzing each one. Disclaimer, there's like 100 different versions of each game. I'll be looking mainly at the console versions, specifically on PlayStation and Nintendo Wii. Also, people have quite a bit of nostalgia for these games. I did not play most of them, but I will specify when I have a bias, just so you know. Oh, and I've never read the books. I've only seen the movies, that too quite a while ago, so make of that what you will. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Philosopher's Stone. There's two main versions of this, adapted in 2001 by two different developers. The PS1 is iconic for its graphics. The PC version, however, having similar assets, mini games, and levels, also is a much better looking game. So obviously I went with the PS1 version. Right off the bat, gauge your expectations. This game is more of a companion piece rather than a standalone piece of media. The game rushes past the first third of the movie, giving you severe whiplash. It already expects you to know the characters like Ron, who introduces himself like,
Hey Harry, remember me? Ron Weasley.
no! Let's address the elephant in the room, the PS1 Hagrids. Back in the day, to achieve realistic looking faces, developers used to take a JPEG of a character and stretch the texture over the polygonal head, and it can look good and believable. Even take a look at Filch in this game. But when there's a lot of characters and various head shapes, the stretching of the textures doesn't always look right. Therefore, PS1 Hagrid. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Philosopher's Stone is an action-adventure platformer with de-emphasized action-adventure and platforming. There's no jump button. Harry just runs off a ledge and you hope he jumps, and damn, he can jump. That must be like 15 feet. Now, my experience with PS1 games is very limited, consisting mainly of Metal Gear and Resident Evil games, where traversing complex, dangerous environments was the main goal. I only got lost that one time, but that was because I just booted up the game and nobody told me where to go. And people do tell you where to go and what to do. A lot. Honestly, because of how simple this game is, I think it aged quite well. Yeah, it's got some BS difficulty spikes and graphics only a mother could love, but Harry controls well and the levels are pretty well laid out. The pacing is not that bad either. The levels are broken up between platforming, QTE minigames, regular minigames, and Quidditch. You spend the majority of the game collecting beans for these two tyrants, Fred and George. Like, come on, cut me a break, I'm just trying to survive this hell school, and they're like,
Have you finished those errands?
Harry has to do these parkour time trials in order to get to class. Once he does get there, he has to partake in this rhythm action minigame to learn new spells. The developers were limited by the amount of spells they could use, seeing as how Harry was just a first year. There's 4 spells in the game, the main one being the Knockback Curse, created specifically for this game, and it's the only thing you'll hear Harry say. They were going for a silent protagonist deal with Harry for no financial reason. The voice acting in this game is very much of the time. Standouts being the enthusiasm with which Nearly Headless Nick delivers his dialogue.
Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Nearly Headless Nick, and I am the Gryffindor House Ghost.
And then we got Peeves.
Whoa! Oh, I'm Peeves, Potter, and you better watch out for me.
Is he in the books? I don't think he was in the movies. Why is his face so detailed compared to everyone else's? He challenges you to this parkour race where you also have to collect all the beans. I mean, you don't have to, but
Hast du schon alles erledigt?
Quidditch is a staple of Harry Potter, and what would a Harry Potter game be without it? Flying feels how it looks. Room sections are, again, of the time. Traversing 3D environments was uncharted territory, and this doesn't feel any worse than, say, Superman 64. It doesn't feel much better either. Now, let's discuss the low point of the game, Diagon Alley. Harry and Hagrid go there about 2/3 of the way into the game. Hagrid needs supplies for his pet dragon, so he tells Harry to pick up everything while he gets a couple of butterbeers. It's simple. Go to 3 separate shops and pick up the items on the list. Oh, but first you have to go to Gringotts, the bank, to withdraw 3 separate currencies. But before you can go to the vault, you have to collect all the proper paperwork strewn about this freshly polished bank floor 3 separate times. So once you do that, they don't just hand you the currencies you're looking for. You have to play this spinning cart mini game to collect all the coins. To be fair, I quite like the physics here. It does handle like something that's bottom heavy. And that's it. That's all the good things I have to say about this minigame. It made me physically sick. The card has a mind of its own and it's impossible to control. You have to do this like 3 separate times with varying difficulty. If you don't fill the bar, go again. For reference, I beat the game in about 5 hours. The footage I have for this minigame is 1 hour long. You eventually do this, but you're still not done. Harry still has to pick up all the items on Hagrid's shopping list, and there's more minigames. It's some Shenmue tier nonsense. Continue bashing your head against the wall, then Hagrid shows up incredibly intoxicated, I assume, and says, "Good job, Harry." Honestly, if I had to do this every single time I wanted something from the shop, I'd probably send an unsuspecting first year too. But it's not all menial minigames. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Knee Philosopher's Stone has thrilling action. Harry fights enemies like medium-sized trolls, large-sized trolls, and a boy with peroxide in his hair. Malfoy is a recurring boss in this game. First he tries to straight up kill you with his, wizard crackers, then challenges you to a broom race. The boss fights are fine, they spice things up from the moment-to-moment collectathon. The game ends with a gauntlet of challenges of varying quality. First you've got this rhythm action boss fight against Fluffy, the 3-headed dog. The trick is to play the notes fast, otherwise he will kill you, as Ron and Hermione watch from a safe distance. Then there's the boss fight against the Devil's Snare, where you have to flipendo its vines in the correct order. The key chase, which is just Quidditch again. This one, the chess puzzle, I quite liked. It's turn-based, you move Harry, then the pieces move. The goal is to get 2 pieces on the same square. It required a bit of strategy and was kinda fun. After that, we just have a keep your eye on the cup puzzle. Completing all this, we enter the endgame. A mysterious hooded figure awaits. So the game checkpointed you right before each puzzle room, but here it saves right before the boss gauntlet. So if you die at any point, you go back to the start. The first fight is with the suits of armor, and it's actually good. There's a 2-on-1 fight with these regular knights. You duck and weave and dodge their attacks. Round 2, when one of them has a shield that deflects your flipendo, you have to wait for an opening. Then there's the final knight that's only vulnerable after it attacks. As you whittle down his health bar, the knight does more moves. This was actually fun and engaging. If this was the final boss fight, well, the game would be something to write home about. However, it isn't. Voldemort reveals himself to the young child. Sidebar, so what would have happened if Harry just didn't go down to the mirror? Like, if he just stayed in bed that night, Voldemort would have gone down there, done all the puzzles, got into the mirror, and then what? Crashed his head, then left? He needed Harry to get the stone, and Dumbledore and Snape would have probably beaten his ass. Anyway, so Voldemort's got his own green flipendo and does quite a bit of damage. Baldi's also got these magic ropes that randomly freeze Harry. You beat him by knocking the pillars onto him. Then in the second phase, use the magic mirror of Erised to hit him with a supercharged flipendo. There's a button mash section with one of the best prompts in gaming history. Then Gryffindor wins for no reason. You know what? I don't hate this. I feel like if I was a kid who came home from the movies and got this, I'd have loved it. That's what the audience was, right? And as a standalone video game, yeah, the story's tough to follow, and it's a glorified minigame collection with some grade A BS, but there's not much to hate. Most sections play well, the levels are designed so you never really get lost, while still feeling open-ended enough to give a sense of exploring a magical school. But that was not the only Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Knee Philosopher's Stone released. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Knee Philosopher's Stone 2. A full-on reimagining of the first book/movie and mainly the movie on the PS2. With shiny new next-gen graphics and facial animations, fully animated cutscenes, and larger explorable environments, this game has it all. The Hogwarts Castle is more or less the same map as the one that appears in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, so I won't go into much detail here. The 2 main versions are on the GameCube and the PS2. The one I chose to play was the PS2 version, which is regarded as the definitive experience. The main differences are the lighting, fewer loading screens between areas, and the ability to use your broom whenever. This game follows the movie much more closely and often inelegantly shoehorns in lines you may or may not remember. It starts off in Diagon Alley with Ollivander telling you about wands.
10 1/4 inches long, swishy.
Most of the mechanics return, even though it's a completely different developer. No dedicated jump button, lock on and dodging that work, and I mean work, just look at these iframes on Harry. Voice acting has been greatly improved. Something I noticed, Harry delivers his line with a hint of passive-aggressive sarcasm.
Wow, I've got to try this.
Oh yeah, they got rid of the silent protagonist idea for Harry. This time, he says things, like the flavor and his opinion on every single jelly bean he picks up.
Fishy. Ugh. Tripe. Chocolate.
This extends to health pickups and spells. Gone are the days of the game selecting what spell you use. You can now map up to 3 spells to the face buttons, which is cool until you get more than 3 spells and have to constantly swap them out by going through the menu. Harry can collect wizard cards, and not only for his mental health, collect enough and it increases his maximum health, which you need for reasons I will get into. The tyrants Fred and George return,
Wow, I must go and see them.
this time as vendors who sell nothing really useful except for a card you can only get at their shop. It's even more difficult to get lost in this one, with each floor in the grand staircase corresponding to a certain class or level. You follow around these human waypoints Harry calls friends that lead you where you need to go. The days do have less variety, which makes the obvious loop a lot more obvious. You go to class, do some Quidditch, and find some ingredients for Snape. He warned you not to show up without them, and I thought, cool. Optional objectives. Until I showed up without the ingredients and Hermie 1 wouldn't let me in. The classes are dungeons where Harry ventures in alone and solves puzzles and learns new spells. They're fine and not exactly a brisk affair, but do make up the meat of the game. Sometimes you also have to do these forced stealth sections. I mean, A for effort. The game has a pseudo cover system and distractions if you want to try playing them properly, but they're ridiculously easy to cheese. You just run past most prefects, and even if they do spot you, by the time they cast their spell, you're already gone. Quidditch returns and is much improved. Not good, but controls are less sensitive. Combined with larger environments to fly around, it feels much better than the previous game. There's that section where Snape curses your broom and it messes your flight controls. I didn't notice till halfway through. The school sections are spliced in with important story beats and boss fights. Enemies come in 2 main varieties. Ones you have to flipendo, then lock in a cage, and Ghost you cast Lumos on to make them disappear. You fight most bosses multiple times, which would be fine if the bosses weren't the absolute worst. You've got these ghost ladies who become these ghost dogs, who become even bigger ghost dogs. The trick is repeatedly casting Lumos to reduce their giant health bar. Just time consuming. Difficulty doesn't ramp up as you go, and you just repeat the same trick over and over again. Same with the multiple troll boss fights. You cast Oingo Boingamus on the spring pad and wait for the troll to hit it, and continue waiting. Then you've got these plant enemies, the Venomous Tentacula, son of Tentacool. In order to defeat these guys, you need to lock on and cast Defendo on all 3 vines, then cast Incendio on the head. And that's 1 hit. The lock-on rarely works. Take too long and the vines get back up. They can stun lock you and fully drain your health bar in a couple of hits. This brings me to how health or stamina works in this game. During boss fights, there's these health pickups that heal half a health bar. Harry can pick up various cauldron cakes and pumpkin pasties that do next to nothing. When you die, and you will die, the game doesn't reset. When the health frogs are gone, they're gone. It fills up a single health bar halfway, and try again, and you do, and you just don't have enough health to get through it. And this happens in every single boss fight. I don't know how many times I softlocked the game, having to reload a save and go looking for cauldron cakes and pumpkin pasties. It does suck, and is definitely my biggest gripe with the game. Now, forget all that. What really makes a Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Knee Philosopher's Stone movie tie-in game is the final gauntlet of challenges. It was definitely the highlight of the previous iteration. This time, Fluffy is just a cutscene rather than a rhythm action minigame. The Devil's Snare, it's just a larger venomous tentacula. Then there's the chess puzzle.
Oh no! Run! What if he's...
He'll be alright.
Feels worse than the chess puzzle in the PS1 game, but is more or less the same. Destroy all the other pieces without having your pieces destroyed. I feel like it was less about calculating the optimum way and more just trial and error, as I did it by accident. The first phase of the final boss fight is Ghost Dogs. Here, Quirrell respawns the dogs if they die, which feels kinda cheap because they have enough health as is. Once Voldemort reveals himself to the young child, he whips out the most powerful spell in his arsenal. In order to beat him, you have to let Harry get hit, absorbing the spell and then firing it back at Voldemort. Simple, right? The only way to aim is by crossing your fingers. The camera's pulled back all the way, making it a perspective issue. You have to do this while Voldemort is throwing everything he's got at you. Eventually, you beat him, and then Slytherin, and the game ends. It's tough to say. Harry Potter 1-1 I hate like a childhood friend, but Harry Potter 1-2 I hate like a coworker. PS2 Harry Potter definitely looks better and plays better, and has an overall less amount of bullshit. But the sheer amount of bullshit in PS1 Harry Potter left a stain in my heart that I won't easily forget.
Wow, I've got to try this. Fishy. A pumpkin pasty. tripe. Mmm,
10 1/4 inches long. Swish it. Why, it's Potty Wee Potter!